Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining us for our Black History Month career panel. We have an amazing and dynamic event for you today. We understand that you have a lot of options here at LA City College, so we want to thank you for making the time to be here. Um, my name is Dr. Henan Juf. I am the Dean of Student Services here at LA City College, and it's my pleasure to oversee the Emoja program and some of the events for Black History Month. But today, actually, I'll be handing over to one of our team members, Mr. Armonte Weeks, who will be our moderator and will be moving this program along. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you who are joining us both online and in person. And for those of you in person, enjoy the pizza. And for those online, unfortunately, just like me, I won't be having any of that. So Armonte, I'll let you take it away. And thank you everybody for joining us again. This event will be recorded. So just so everybody knows, it is currently being recorded so we can share with the rest of our community. So if you know anybody that wasn't able to make it here, tell them to follow us on all the social media platforms, including YouTube, so that they can follow up on the conversation that is being had today. All right, Armonte, take it over.
All right, thank you, Dr. Juf. So how everybody doing? My name is Armonte Weeks. I am the Emoja intern here at LACC. Of course, I'm doing this alongside the Career Center, and we're doing this for Black History Month because we believe that it's important to showcase Black professionals working in the fields that some students may not go to, or probably be like, probably don't want to do that. So, but it definitely has the potential to interest a lot of students here that's on campus. So yes, and then my team member, Vanessa, she is from the Career Center. Want to give an introduction?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Vanessa. I'm here from the Career Center. So happy to be here and be able to co-facilitate with Armonte today. So I really appreciate the panelists for being here today and excited to hear from all of you.
So without further ado, we're not going to waste too much time. We're going to jump right in. So I'm going to go through introductions to bios. And I hope nobody's like, why'd you read that, man? Look, I got y'all. Trust me. Look, I'm going to make it sound really appealing. Like this is a whole award show and everything. Okay. So I'm going to start off with Mr. Michael Ball because I was like, I'm just going in some kind of order in my head. So Michael Ball, he is if I'm not mistaken, policy.
Yeah, policy associate.
Yes, policy associate. Michael Ball works to help communities build power and advocate for the changes they want. He supports communities in Long Beach and Los Angeles in their advocacy efforts. He has worked on reimagining school safety, LBUSD's Black Student Achievement Initiative, increasing access to mental health resources and other causes since graduating law school. And I'll move right on to Justin Jones. Mr. Justin Jones is a licensed civil engineer and an associate civil engineer with the Los Angeles County Public Works. His current role is to help administer the Safe Clean Water Program, which provides local dedicated funding to increase Los Angeles local water supply, improve water quality, and protect public health. Mr. Shante Graham. Make sure that everybody's still here. We all good? All right, cool. All right. So Mr. Shante S. Graham is a highly experienced educator, counselor, and consultant with a passion for helping others reach their potential. He has a master's degree in human services from Lincoln University and is currently completing a PhD in higher education administration and educational leadership from Liberty University. With over 20 years of experience in the social services field, Mr. Graham has helped a diverse range of communities, including at-risk youth and their families, student and low-income programs, and adult learners. He has also taught at several universities, including Temple University and Lincoln University, and has worked as an adjunct professor at, oh man, I can't see too good. My eyes are terrible. Oh my goodness, I can't see that. Why does it look like that? Oh, there you go.
That's more than enough, Armonte.
That's enough? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Look, I was like, you gotta do it justice. That's why. So, and we're gonna move right along to Mr. Julian Gooden. Mr. Julian Gooden started his filmmaking career in comedy, where he worked as an editor and second unit director on shows like Shaq's All-Star Comedy Jam and Kevin Hart Laugh at My Pain. He shifted into sports in 2012 when he started working as a producer, shooter, and editor for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Julian earned 6 Los Angeles area Emmy Awards with the Dodgers before leaving in 2019 to join the NFL. He spent 3 years with the NFL, earning 10 Sports Emmy Award nominations and winning 3. Julian currently works at ESPN, producing and directing content for E60. And, all right, so I just did all of that just to let y'all know that we gonna ask y'all questions because we would like to learn about what y'all do because like I said initially, I believe it's important to see Black professionals in fields that many coming from LA, especially out of South Central, where I'm from. We don't see too many people like that. So it's very unique to see somebody who looks like me in positions that I didn't even dream of. So further right along, let's get into it. So the first question, who or what inspired you to step into your respective industry?
You want to direct that to somebody, Armani, or you want us to just jump in? How you want us to roll with this?
For this one, I just want anybody to just, whoever feels like they're ready to share and just run on with it.
I'll start. For me, I'm from North Philadelphia. Born to a teenage mom, raised by a single mom, and my best friend met him in the 5th grade. His mother was an adjunct professor at the area community college, Philadelphia Community College. I had no idea what adjunct meant. I just knew his mom was a college professor. And her role as a professor always intrigued me. And it wasn't until many years later, a whole career later, that I began to investigate, what an adjunct was. And not until 2013, I think I had my first adjunct opportunity to teach at a college. And that began the transition from me working in social services for 20 years, transitioning into the higher education field. So it was my best friend's mom.
And I could jump in here. Go ahead, Julian.
No, you got it, Justin. I'll go after you.
Oh, cool. Well, first, I'm honored to be on this panel with just esteemed folks in their profession. I think it's always good to see African Americans who have accomplished so much in their careers and in their professional life. So I'm grateful to be here. The person who inspired me to pursue civil engineering is my math teacher. Initially, I always was good at math growing up. It was the only subject in school that I really paid attention to, and actually, I felt like I accomplished a lot in math. And I knew that when I grew up, I wanted to do something in math or with math, but I didn't want to be a math teacher. And so ironically enough, my math teacher was a civil engineer in his prior career. And so he suggested that I look at civil engineering as a profession to pursue. And so I had never heard of engineering. I didn't know what it entailed. And so I started to research it, and I just felt, okay, this is something I could do. I could design buildings, I could design infrastructure and help my community that way. And so I pursued civil engineering. I majored in it. I graduated with it with a degree in civil engineering. But also I was able to intern with my city, a few cities, city of LA, city of Pasadena. And from there, I was able to see that not only is this profession, it can directly impact the community that I grew up in, right? But there's also folks in here that look just like me. And so I was fortunate enough, and with my internships, that I saw a person who was the city engineer, who was African-American, who there was a consultant who owned their own business, they were African-American. And so it just gave me a sense of pride and a sense that I can accomplish this. Not only can I become a civil engineer, but I can aspire to be, a high ranking official in the profession or to own my own business. And so I really think that just going back to my math teacher, just kind of plugging in dropping that little nugget of saying, hey, look into the civil engineering profession. And it started with that.
I think for me, filmmaking was actually a second career choice for me. I actually started I was a real estate agent, when during the real estate boom, and I fell victim to the collapse. And so I was actually, trying to find a fresh start. And I was, maybe 24 at the time, 23 or 24 at the time. And a gentleman that I was working with in real estate wanted to get into some entertainment stuff. And so I said, I'll help out. And I decided to go back to school. I had enrolled back into film school, which is the Art Institute of Los Angeles. And I just fell in love with it. My first semester, I was like, hey, think I'm okay at this, and I like it. And those were the two things, I felt that, I'm passionate. I could really build a passion for this, and I can really work hard at this craft. And I think that's a very, very important thing. Whatever industry that you're in, whatever you choose to do, you have to be passionate about the work, and you have to be willing to put the long hours in. And I was willing to do that. And so I just made the choice that, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to waver. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to commit to this, and I'm going to, try to be the best that I can. And I'll land where I land. And so, yeah, I'm happy with the decision. But yeah, this was a second career for me that's been working out.
Wow, those are all some great answers and hard to follow up from. Honestly, there hasn't been any person or any group of people I can think of that has inspired me to go down the route that I went for law school. But what inspired me to do it was that I knew I wanted to make change, and I knew I wanted to help people make change within their own lives and understand. And I knew that lawyers had access to a lot of knowledge and a lot of capabilities that I think would be important to share with communities. And I know that I have been fortunate enough to take advantage of a lot of opportunities. And I thought that if I got a legal education, I would be able to do the same and help others do the same within their communities. So that's what inspired me to get into it.
Y'all all gave amazing answers. Yeah, I know that noise. But y'all gave amazing answers. And somehow, without me asking the follow-up question to it, you all answered the follow-up question, which is, did you see anybody in your field initially making strides? Well, I know Justin and Shantae said it, but was there anybody that Julian and Michael, did y'all see that inspired you, just off notice, you said, that's the person kind of got me into this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a couple people. My mentor is a gentleman by the name of Leslie Small, and he kind of is the one that kind of picked me up and got me going. He's a you have to look him up. He's a pretty prominent director in the comedy game. And then the other person who I interned under, who I really was inspired by, was a director by the name of F. Gary Gray. He directed Friday. He directed, Set It Off, and he hired me as his intern. It was the first job I ever had. And, he would just give me little jewels, just little tidbits and little things to motivate me. And, once I kind of got connected to these brothers who really just took me under their wing, that was kind of it for me. That kind of set me on my course. And obviously, working in the film industry, you watch movies and you're inspired. And so I started watching, and really trying to break down, Spike Lee movies and what he's done and why he's so great at what he does, and look at it from a different lens of storytelling. And so, I'm still inspired to this day by, directors and producers of color, because it's not a lot of us in this industry. It's a small circle. And so, but early on in my career, those were the two that really got me going and gave me that kickstart.
Yeah, I would say there weren't any that I knew beforehand. I knew Black lawyers existed, obviously, but I didn't know them personally, and there were none where it was kind of that driving force. But once I started going to school, and since I've been working, I met a lot Black lawyers or Black people with legal degrees, whether they're acting as a lawyer or not acting as a lawyer, that have given a lot of inspiration and just, you know, mentorship and continuing down the path, using my education in different ways, and just constantly being open in a way that other mentors don't.
So I made, Justin, did you want to say something? I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I do want to share that there was, so my friend's mom specifically, but there was a community of professional African Americans that if it were not for them, I wouldn't be sitting here. I spent I just spent my anniversary out in LA. So I saw some of the hoods that look, you know, similar to where I'm from, right? And man, because of some circumstances, lost my brother at the age, I was 6, he was 5, and lost him to the neglectful and unwarranted behavior of a drunk driver. So as a result of my loss, I ended up going to look for God. Because me and God were gonna have a talk. And so I ended up in church. And the church that I ended up in was a Black working white collar Baptist church where there were doctors, lawyers, principals, teachers. Coming from the family that I came from and the neighborhood that I came from, there was none of that. So I was the first, in 1991, the first male in my family to graduate high school. So growing up in this environment where the question became, what college was I going to go to? And not a matter of whether I was going to go to college or not. What major was I going to pick? Not a question of if I was ever going to have a major. Growing up in that environment set me on a path of this is what was expected. Where without that group of people, I would have succumbed to the ills of my community and the family. All my uncles died in jail or within a year of being released from jail. All the male cousins ahead of me, in and out of jail, were no longer with us. So that group, collective group of people, had the most impact on my life as far as higher education was not an option. It was the next thing you did after the 12th grade.
I don't know, Justin, I don't know if you want to go. I know you already shared.
No, you can't follow that.
So thank you all. I really truly appreciate the fact that y'all perspectives are being shared right now in this room, because I wouldn't have known that at all by any of y'all. Just off reading the bios, no. And that alone just has sparked something where I'm like, oh, that's you never know everybody's story. You know, there's what song is that? It's a John B. Key song. You don't know my story. It's a gospel song from like 2011, I think. And it's like you never know what it took to get to the place that everybody's at. So, and who inspired me. So we're gonna add on to the next questions. Here we go, everybody. So in the past 3 years, are you seeing a trend with the Black professionals progressing within your industry?
At least for me, I think in civil engineering, I've seen a trend of it increasing. I think there's been significant outreach with STEM programs or STEAM, as some people may call it, to recruit more Black students and Black young people into the profession of science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold, but into the engineering profession. So I've seen that, and I've actually seen the trend where I work at LA County is that they've made a big push to hire more African Americans and people of color into the in our department and throughout the county. And so I think just from that perspective, I've seen a trend of it increasing, which to me is very refreshing, because it's always good to be around folks who look like you and are able to just to have a shared common life perspective. And so it's been very rewarding to work alongside of them as well.
For me, yeah, I definitely have seen a trend. I think since, I know we'll get into this later, but I know since George Floyd in 2020, I think platforms are looking for new voices and authentic voices to tell the stories of the Black experience. And whether it's Hulu, whether it's NFL, whether it's ESPN, there's an opportunity to tell stories and to tell stories about us. And I've seen it, I've actually benefited from it. I think 2020 gave me the opportunity to give my perspective and my opinion on, who we are as a people. And I think that's going to continue. So for young filmmakers, this is definitely a good opportunity to tell your story and give your perspective and give your point of view, how you see it, because it's about being authentic. I think, especially in the documentary, in the reality space, even in the narrative space, if you want to write a script, I think people are looking for authentic stories and stories that relate to who you are as a person. And so yeah, so definitely.
I would say that, yeah, in the past few years, I've definitely seen it's a trend of Black professionals progressing within the industry. I know within law, there's like a couple different ways. There's like the real like fancy lawyers that everybody thinks about, and these big firms and going to court. And there's definitely a lot of progression in there. I'm in the nonprofit legal side, so it's always kind of been more Black and brown and minority led in these spaces. So it is definitely good to still see those. But I know across kind of all of it, there's, as Julian said, there's a push to see more things led by Black people or more things led by people of minorities, people of color, and really trying to see that diversity in thought within the place that we're in. And I know that, it's great to be surrounded by a lot of Black people, but when you are some of the Black people who are really making those waves in predominantly non-Black spaces, that sometimes that comes with, you have to carry the burden of teaching everybody, like, this is what Blackness is like, or like, this is my experience as a Black person. So there's just also sometimes some of that. And luckily I don't really have that because I'm surrounded by a lot of Black people and a lot of other people of color and minorities. But I know for other people in other situations, it might be a little different.
So my situation is a little different than my brothers. Not so much in higher education. The percentages have gone up as it relates to, so we just use Black presidents of colleges and universities. The percentages have gone up slightly, but not necessarily because of hiring practices, because many colleges and universities in the past 10 years have closed. So the concentration of African American administrators in colleges and universities really hasn't changed much over the past 10 years. The past 3 colleges that I've worked at in the past 4 or 5 years, the college I'm at right now, I'm the only Black male on campus, staff on campus. And I'm an hour and a half outside of Philly, maybe close to 2 hours outside of Philly, an hour away from Baltimore. One of the colleges that I was at right outside of Pittsburgh, PA, I was the only Black person on campus, Black staff, male or female on campus. So my experience outside of being in the larger cities. When I was an adjunct in the city, in Philly, at Temple, and obviously at a Black, historically Black college and university, Lincoln University, there was more diversity, I had more peers. But when you talk about getting away from the cities and getting away from the HBCUs, the numbers are not trending as much as they are, or as much as some other industries may be seeing it happen. So it's and to, I think, Michael's point, it is where you, to have that camaraderie, it's a good thing. And I think all the brothers talk about having that camaraderie, having that sense of community, and how synergy can be built when you have people that know your story just by virtue of their story being connected to your story. It becomes difficult sometimes when you don't have that synergistic energy, and you are the only. So you end up gravitating towards the students and wanting to be there for the students. And then you have to try to balance that, because you still have a job to do, you still have a role, but you also know what it's like to be a student. If like myself, if you spent time at a PWI, predominantly white institution, and know what it is to long for that connection, and your role may not specifically fit the needs, the reasons and the needs that the students are always coming to you. So figuring out how to balance that, still do your job, but still be available for the students becomes a challenge when your peers and your colleagues really don't live in that space or that world, so they don't really get it or understand it. And sometimes even when you try to explain it, not necessarily receive it.
So you all likely touched on it, but what are some unique challenges that they face as they enter into the field that you're in? Like something that they see as a barrier, something that you see as a barrier that kind of like slows them up a little bit as they try to progress and, moving from maybe an entry-level position to something else. What are the barriers that they face?
I could start on this one. I would say some barriers that people face going into the field. Definitely just being looked at like you're the affirmative action student, like you're the one that they brought in to, just kind of even the playing field. And it's really unfortunate because, like we said before, like nobody knows what we've all done to get where we are. And a lot of us have worked harder or really, really hard to get where we're at. And so just constantly fighting that pressure or that perception from other people who don't know you or who only see one side of you and don't think that you're as serious as you need to be for the profession, or if you're not fitting the standard for what they believe, then it's kind of looking at you as like, oh, well, you're just here because they needed to fill a quota, or you're just here because it was kind of easier for you in some way, when in reality, you've worked just as hard, if not harder, to get where they are.
Or you're the spokesperson for the community, right? It's like, especially like when George Floyd happened, right? I mean, your colleagues come straight to you and you're supposed to represent an entire community to them. I don't know if that's a barrier, but that's just part of being in the workplace, at least where I work at. Or I shouldn't say that, at least in where other people work.
I think in the film industry, there's a lot of barriers, but I think one of them is really focusing on your path. I think a lot of people get into this game and they look at maybe the celebrity of it, or they look at the money and they think, I want to go that way. But I think, you have to find the path that fits you. And there's a lot of things that you could do in this industry to make a living for yourself and have a comfortable life. And I think it's searching for what you're passionate about and what fits your skill sets and your talents. And I think a lot of times you'll get caught up in wanting to do something that everybody's doing. And there's all this stuff over here that people need help on, that there's opportunities and jobs and ways you can take care of yourself. And, you know, for example, for me, you know, I fell into, you know, I played football. I thought like everybody I was gonna go to the NFL, and that didn't happen. And so, but when I got into film, you know, my skill sets being an athlete translated to, you know, working for the Dodgers, working for the NFL, working for ESPN. And so I think, you know, in my industry, at least, you know, whatever you're passionate about, there's a place for you. And so just staying focused on your path is a major barrier, and doing the work that's necessary to get better every single day, and not get, you know, persuaded into directions that might take you away from your ultimate goal, which is, you know, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, and creating, you know, meaningful content that people connect with. So yeah.
Barriers for, and I think the brothers would agree, with any profession, when you are, to Justin's point, considered to have to be the community expert in those non-diverse spaces and places. Now, I speak for a living, I talk for a living, so I have no problem being that educated of the community, right? But the more I follow my path, as Julian was speaking about, the further removed I'm coming from my roots. So I don't have the answers. I have less and less of the answers of the community year after year after year. And if I'm spending time in the community, then I'm not spending as much time on my craft. So, and I'm sure in Julian's world, that's a, you know, and I stand to be corrected, that's a big thing. You go into these rooms and you have opportunities with non-community members, and they want you to be the expert on, you know, all things Black. And if he's, you know, still in the community learning all things, you know, the new things Black, then he's not in, you know, in those rooms making those deals. If he's in those rooms making those deals, then he's not learning all the things, you know, all the things new Black. And at some point, you know, it becomes problems, you know, there's a ceiling that you hit because you're not up on the nuances of the community, which gives you that edge, and then you're not up on the new things in your field, because, you know, you still got a foot back, you know, in your roots. So in higher education, you end up becoming a student and reading articles and peer-reviewed research about the very community that you come from, to stay abreast. And we all know that it is not always accurate information. So that becomes a big hurdle as you try to ascend in your career, but also want to remain grounded in where you come from. And to be able to do both at some point becomes impossible, and a choice has to be made. And it creates a big point of consternation, or can present a big point of consternation in one's life. And, you know, dealing with, you know, identity crisis, dealing with, you know, leaving people behind, to move, you know, to progress. And how do you bring others along? Well, what work did they do to keep up? And so there's a big hurdle, you know, when you come from meager beginnings and aspire to do impactful things. And at some point, you have to make a big jump over a big hurdle.
And let me speak to that real quick. And so one thing that is beautiful about what I do is you could take some of those vulnerabilities of not understanding everything and try to tell a story around that. And so that's what I've been able to do, is be authentic to what I love, right? I want to tell stories about the Black experience. Well, I don't know everything about the Black experience, and so what that does is that gives me the opportunity to learn, to what Shantae was talking about. You need to learn about who you are, and through that you need to learn about the history behind who we are. And I've had opportunities to tell stories like that. I did the story of Black Wall Street, 1921 Tulsa Massacre, on the NFL Network, which is really weird. It was like, wait, you want to do what on what? But I had to find that angle. I had to find the reason to tell the story, and that was the work. But I knew I wanted to tell that story because I think it's important, as a Black storyteller, to find those stories and get those stories out to people who may not be interested in it, but may learn something if they watch it. And so, to the young filmmakers, if anybody in there is in this that wants to go down this path, be true to who you are, and be true to your perspective, and be willing to grow and be willing to learn, because you don't know everything. And so as soon as you figure that out, that I don't know everything, it becomes it doesn't become a crutch, it becomes a superpower for you, because you could be honest about the stories you want to tell, and you're going to do the work to learn the best way to tell those stories. So
So I want to circle back to something Shantae was mentioning. You used words that touched upon leadership, and given that y'all have been leaders in y'all field, I want to ask, what leadership qualities have y'all picked up over the past few years, maybe even the past 10 years, that you can recall, or even just recently, something that you probably recently learned about your leadership? If you could speak on those.
I can go. As a director, you have to, your main job is to inspire, a team of people to make you look good. For me, I've learned how to empower, as a leader, because everybody in this industry, has a role, and you should be inspired to execute that role to the best of your ability. And that requires you, as a leader, you to give them that space to do their job really, and do it with pride. And so, anybody that I work with, whether it's a cinematographer or editor, I empower them to create and be creative. You're not a robot. And so I think that, I know I have a specific skill set, but their skill set is different from my skill set. And so I want you to elevate this. And so it's really bringing everybody together for one collective goal. And the goal is to create the best content possible. But you can't do that unless you have the people who believe in you and believe in the idea or the project. And so over the years, I've developed a sense of understanding, everybody is important no matter what role they play. And you have to make sure as a leader that you instill that into them, that, none of this happens without you. None of this happens without you. And I think that's worked for me. And that's true to who I am. I want people to be great around me. And I want to inspire people to be their best selves. And so, but I think those are the qualities that I've had to develop over time, in understanding that what I said earlier, you're not perfect, and you need people to help you be better. And so, yeah, so those are some of the things I learned over the years of filmmaking.
I could jump in, and I would echo what Julian has said about empowering people, but also empowering communities. In my field of engineering, we often design, build projects in the middle of communities that, different communities can benefit from. And so I've developed the sense that you need to empower them to be able to share what exactly they want in their community. Because I think far too often, at least in the engineering profession, is that a lot of us get stuck on Google Map and designing whatever it is that needs to go out there and then just giving it to the contractor to go build, and never really involving the folks who are actually going to be a direct recipient of whatever type of infrastructure you're building for them. And so through that, I've developed a sense of perseverance, because, you know, you'll go to community meetings and you're proposing to do one project and, you know, the community doesn't want that project. And then either you go through lawsuits, you go through, you know, heckling at the town halls or whatever it is. And you just know at the end of the day that, you know, there's going to be something built and it's going to be beneficial to the community or to whoever's going to be the recipient of it. And also through that, as I've developed a leadership style, is a willingness to listen, right? Because I think far too often folks who, as they climb the ladder, they think that they've just climbed the ladder because on their own intellect or on their own hard work, but that's not the case, right? It's like you have to be able to listen to folks at all levels, whether above you or below you or side by side with you, to be able to bring about the best product or the best project. And then also throughout all that is an appreciation for lived experience, right? I think we all can have a shared lived experience as being African Americans in America. And, you know, I look at society through one tunnel, but then someone else, you know, maybe I don't know, the rich white mom or the soccer mom or whatever looks at society through a different lens. And it's just as important for me as an engineer and as a public servant to respect their vision of what they want in their community as well. So I give that appreciation for lived experience. And then going back on the perseverance, and I don't mean to be long-winded, but in engineering, like everything, at least in civil engineering, your profession, it depends on passing an exam. And it depends, there's 4 exams, 2 8-hour exams, and then 2 3-hour exams. And so you're not going to promote or progress in this field unless you pass those exams. And so like that could be a barrier when you're going through this profession, because if you fail and then your colleagues pass, you know, there's something psychologically there, like, hey, you know, is it me? Am I right for this profession? I can't pass this exam. And, you know, getting through that in the beginning stages of your career, right? I think it helps you develop that perseverance, because there's going to be a lot of issues and a lot of circumstances that, you know, you're not comfortable with, and you're just going to have to persevere through it, especially when we're talking about like projects and you're developing infrastructure that affects millions and millions of people.
I'll go ahead. I would say some good qualities I've learned about leadership are confidence in knowing that you did what it took to get where you are, and confidence in that knowledge will carry you through as you continue to go on. Being confident that no matter what challenges are posed to you, that you're flexible enough to be able to respond to them in time, but also enough humility to make sure that you are being led by the people that you are trying to help, or by the people that you are trying to support and uplift. Because it's really important that if you're advocating for somebody or with somebody, that you not only advocate fiercely for them, but you also teach them how to do so for themselves down the line, because there won't always be a professional there to help them. So just giving them as much knowledge, insight, and like ways to think through things as you would have.
There's so many leadership qualities that I could choose from. I guess to be succinct, I would choose I had to learn the ability to consider everyone, but also have the hard conversations with everyone to understand that everything that's considered cannot be done. So learning to balance showing value to everyone on the team, but also getting everyone to understand that your value is not diminished because we didn't go in your direction. And that becomes, I think, becomes more difficult with every generation, especially Armani, to your generation and the generation coming behind you. Those of us on the call, I think we can remember the generation. I don't know, the trophy generation, where everybody got a trophy. Everybody, Julian, everybody on the football team, man, got a participation trophy. They took participation off, and everybody got a trophy of significance because they made the championship or the MVP trophy smaller because they didn't want everyone else to feel like they were slighted because the one person got a bigger trophy than everyone else. So that conversation becomes more needed as a leader, and help and being patient and helping people understand their value is not diminished, but that a leader must ultimately make the choice of the direction that things are going to go in, and want to encourage that person to continue to participate in the process. And that's something that I try to pass on to those that I have the opportunity to share with as it relates to leadership.
Yeah, I remember the trophy generation too, because I got like trophies for participating. I was not good at football, so trust me, I was like, here you go, here's a trophy. It was not great. It was not great. But I do want to move this into a direction, since you mentioned the new generation, which I keep forgetting I'm included in, because I always like to say I was born in '98. I like to say I was born right before Jordan won his last championship. So I like to say that because born in February, so it's like I should be able to say that I was there for his 6th championship, just a second. But I do want to ask, how can your field appeal to the new generation, or in what ways is it appealing to the new generation? And how can y'all, or even other people that are in your positions, showcase it to everyone that's like coming up after me, or even in my own generation right now?
Well, mine is a little unique because I think the new generation is kind of leading the industry, with TikTok and all these new platforms. It's very unique in how the new generation is telling stories. And I think it's really inspiring for somebody like me, because the youth, they keep me on my toes. They make me be better as a storyteller, be more efficient as a storyteller. And so I'm inspired by them. But I think something that the young generation can do is just be authentic, be true to who you are, and have a point of view. I think in storytelling, everybody's point of view is important. Everybody's point of view is unique. Everybody's point of view is special, because my life experience is different from everybody in this Zoom. And so your perspective is important. And so I think when you're young, in this industry, you're trying to cater to somebody, or you're trying to please somebody. And as you grow in this field, you realize that really, at the end of the day, all we really have is our point of view. Because as you get better, you realize everybody on my level is good. Every producer can produce, every shooter can shoot. And so what makes you different? What makes you special as a producer? What makes you special as a director? It's your point of view. That's it. And so for me, that's all I have. All I have is my point of view and my ideas. And hopefully my ideas, inspire somebody to say, hey, I'm going to help you make this. And so, for the young generation, just tell your story and stick to your point of view and what matters and what's important to you. And you'll learn everything else that you need to learn. If you love this and you want to make this your career and you work hard, all that other stuff is going to come. But stay focused on your point of view and the story that you want to tell and the story that you want to get out to your audience.
I guess I could go. And Armani, I was born when Jordan won his first championship, so so I was there for all 6.
Need both of y'all to be quiet, man.
But I when we go out and talk to, you know, the quote unquote younger generation, or just high school students or kids or students in college, the question that I always get asked is like, what's the meaning of your work? Like, what's the impact to our community or your community? And so I think that, at least for civil engineering, and specifically for the type of projects that I work on, I think just showing them that there's so much meaning in our work and the impact to the community that we work on. Like right now, I work on, you know, a regional scale and looking at water and ensuring that folks have water to drink, and storing stormwater capture, and looking at 25, 30 years from now to ensure that we still have a potable water source. And so to some folks, that's impactful and that's meaningful, or being able to plan, check, or even design an affordable housing unit, you know, that you know is going to help shelter someone who's unsheltered right now. That could be a way to look at your work as being meaningful and impactful to the community. And so, like, really our work is people driven and community driven. And so showing that to the next generation, for me at least, has been helpful in getting them into the profession.
Yeah, I would go ahead and say that, to me, law is not that interesting of a career. It's not that interesting of a career choice. It's something that seems pretty boring from the outset, and it's something that I decided in college as kind of a last minute decision. But I would say that what drew me to it, and again, what like kept me through it, was wanting to do something to make change in my community. So it really kind of ties back to what people have been saying, is like, focus on what your goal is, focus on what you want to do, and then use what you've learned in this to like make that change. And I think that's something that probably really appeals to the younger generation, is like, people want to do things different than how they've been done, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to, you know, like, give up every single thing that's come with it before. So there's always going to be the prestige of being a lawyer, a professor, an engineer, a media, like in the media, like there's always going to be that prestige. But like, I think we're all showing, like, there are multiple different ways to do what you do with that education, with that knowledge, and to make the change and to fight for what you think is right, or to fight for what you think needs to be out there in the world.
And Michael, you have to share who won the NBA championship the year you were born.
I was there on the 3-peat. I was 93.
Well, I didn't say that. I'm Showtime Lakers, so I'm a little older than you guys. You know, I'm Magic. I think Jordan. I don't even think Jordan was drafted yet.
Bad. This is bad. So I was born the year Jerry West won NBA championship with the Lakers. So to your question, Armani, so there's this thing called the enrollment cliff that's coming to higher education. So 18 to 25 years ago, there were less babies born in American history than prior to and since then. For the next 10 years, so from 2025 to about 2035, there's going to be less high school graduates, just by virtue of birth numbers 18 to 28 years ago. So colleges and universities are going to be fighting over enrollment and getting students into college. So with COVID, that's kind of been accelerated. So you've seen a lot of colleges lower their standards for students getting in. And especially for tuition based colleges that run based on the tuition that tuition revenue they're able to generate. They're competing for these students. I see a great opportunity for our community if some community leaders can raise up and help, especially in the inner cities, our kids do better with our dropout rates. We will be well positioned. The largest group of potential students is in the African American community, and it's those that are dropping out and those that are completing college and not going to college. So it's a great opportunity not only for us to potentially maximize funding, maximize the opportunity to get in because of the lower standards, to prepare our community members to excel through this opportunity, but then also to stay in the academy, if you will, and get entry-level jobs and to grow and know about how to attract more of our community members into the academy. So there is that's not something that a lot of people are talking about, but it's something I've been doing a lot of research on and actually been writing some LinkedIn articles and pushing out as of actually the last month or so. Something I'm really trying to make a concerted effort to get out into my community, and hopefully it gets outside of my circle and people start picking up on it, that there is an opportunity coming for us to take full advantage of what's available, and then for us to get a foothold into higher education in 20, 30, 40 years from now. We will then be in the position of decision makers at area colleges and universities to be even more impactful.
I won't follow up. No more basketball talk because y'all just completely got rid of me with that. It's okay. But I love what y'all said because this is the impact that's out there. It's just like a need right now. And I see like the new generation. I know Julian mentioned it, but TikTok is very prevalent right now. And then also having the little other things like Instagram, and then always making posts and videos on YouTube. I asked that because I wanted to make sure that all the students understand, like, you can get into something that you're interested in, not worry about, the money, or like if people are going to look at you a certain way because you're not, in a field that they want to be in. So I wanted to ask that, and I'm glad y'all answered. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, I do want to ask this one question. Is there a time that you can recall where you have wanted to step into a different field that is not anything like what you're doing right now, or is something similar, but you were like, I'm okay, I don't want that? I know, Julian, if you want to go first, yes, I haven't called on everybody today, but I know Julian mentioned he was a real estate agent prior to stepping into film, or to documentaries and ESPN and NFL. So yeah, I'm gonna let Julian go on this one first.
Yeah. Once I got into film, no, I made the choice that, like, I used to tell my friends and family, I was like, even if I'm a bum on the street, I'll be a bum on the street making films. I made that choice because before that, I was falling into that kind of like, hustler path of like, let me find the way to make a buck. And so I fell into real estate, but I was doing like other kind of little, trying to start a business here. Oh, this person is doing something over here. Let me get with him. And I started finding myself like, okay, you need to focus and you need to find something that you can stick to. And And so film became that thing for me. And so I made the decision to stick with it no matter what. The only time that I wavered, I'll give you a quick story. I was in film school. I was working, and I had just finished film school, and I didn't have any money. I was living in North Hollywood, just paying like $500 a month for an apartment, and I had $2 to my name. And I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work out for me. And so, I took those $2 and I went and walked to the store, and I prayed, and I said, God, like, if this is my path, give me something. I need some type of sign. And I'm not really, I don't want to get deep into the spirituality of it, but I did it. And so I was walking home, and I only had $2 to my name. And I saw a $20 bill on the street. And I picked the $20 bill up, and I said, okay, that's all I needed. And that night, I applied to the Dodgers. That was a night. I said, you know what? I'll do my resume. I'm gonna try to see if I can get something popping. And I applied to the Dodgers that night, and I got that job, and that set me on my path. And so that was the only time that I ever wavered, and said, from that point on, I said, this is what I'm going to do with my life, period. No question about it. And so, but it really came down to just being passionate about what you want to do and never giving up. If you don't give up, you'll never fail. And that's just what it is. You'll make mistakes, you'll have bumps in the road, but that only makes you better at what you want to do. And so, so I just stuck to that. And so that's, like I said before, it's been working out for me, and hopefully it continues to.
I guess I could follow up. I never really thought about leaving civil engineering. I think the only time I probably considered a career switch is like I said before, like in civil engineering, you have to pass, similar to the bar exam, you have to pass the professional engineering exam. And so I failed one of the 4 tests, and just having to study again, you're removed 2 years, 3 years from college, and you just feel like, oh, can I really do this? So I think I just started Googling careers that doesn't require me to take an exam, but I wasn't too serious on that. So I think that's the only time I've considered it. But within like civil engineering, there's so many different fields, right? There's like, you can focus on like structural engineering, transportation engineering, and my focus has been on water. And so I've thought about, maybe I can start to pursue structural engineering a little more serious, or transportation, but I've been dealing with water since I became a professional engineer. So I haven't really made this switch at all.
Yeah. I wasn't committed to law school until college, and even then it was kind of like, okay, this is a way I can do what I want to do, my goal of helping people. And honestly, I pretty much almost failed out of my first year. I wasn't taking it serious. It wasn't appealing to me in the way that I thought it would. But I would say since then, I definitely did want to go into another job, another industry. I danced, so I was trying to go into that side of like entertainment and stuff. But ultimately, I talked to one of my Black law mentors who I met through work and school and everything. And he was telling me, like, if you're going to do this, if you're going to be a professional, whether that's law or whatever, like, find what you love about it and make sure that keeps you drawn to it. Like, you don't have to do the model thing that everybody does. But if you find something that you love about it and that makes you want to do it, there's no point going through the rest of school being miserable, just trying to do this to say you did it. And I mean, everybody has a different take on it, but for me, that really hit home. And that kept me focused on it. And I still haven't given up my other dream. It's still just kind of on the side. It's something I do. And I don't know, I may switch jobs at some point. You're on mute.
So Amani, I'm gonna take you back to when I sat in seats that you and your classmates sit in now. My major changed about 3 times when I was in undergrad, from computer engineering to computer science to psychology. So that was the academic part of it. But the social part of it was, I explained some of my background. I was the first to go to college. So at home, I was king at 17 years old, right? I'm the patriot. My grandfather had passed away. My uncles were, locked up, were dead. My cousins were locked up, were dead, the ones that were older than me. So at 17, high school graduate, I'm now the adult male in the family that everyone's looking to. The short version of that story was I took hood ways away to school. And so I'm hustling, I'm not selling drugs, anything like that, but anything other than selling drugs that my mind could think of, I'm on this, college in the wood campus with this Philly state of mind. And so God, having a purpose for my life, sat me in my pockets, and those pockets were sitting on a bed in a jail cell for 42 days while I was away at college. And so that awakening was like, I didn't need to go away to college to end up here. I could have did this from the crib. So in that, there was some self-introspection and really just figuring out, how did I end up here? How was I in college, getting good grades, having the time of my life, but yet, I found myself sitting in jail. And, talking to the creator, I decided, you help me to figure this out. One, I'll never come back to a place like this again. Two, I'll help others realize, how they're on that path and how they can create another path. And from that day, regardless of what my titles are, I'm a life coach. So regardless of, whether I'm working in social services, I'm working in higher education, I'm giving jewels of knowledge of how to get to where you say you want to get to, and then I'm holding you accountable to it. And that, regardless of where I am, whether it's on the block with a young soldier, or if it's in the classroom or in my office with someone I'm helping develop their career here on this college campus, I'm the same guy that's going to help you figure out where you are, figure out where you want to go, help create that GPS plan. It really was just finding me, finding things that were easily moving me off my square.
Shantae, we kind of losing you there a little bit.
You hear me?
Yeah, audio kind of went out a little bit.
That's pretty much it. I hope you got the gist of it. That it happened for me sitting in the seats that you and your colleagues are sitting in, and I've been consistent, again, regardless of where I've been and what the title it is that I've held.
Y'all going to enjoy this. So as we segue into the end portion of this, I definitely want to ask, because it seems appropriate, but what advice could you give to those who are seeking careers in the fields that you're in? What advice could you give?
I can start on this one. I would say, one, be flexible. Just because you may think you want to do one thing, life may have different plans for you, or you may decide you like something else. But I'd say the advice that I can give is probably the best advice I've ever received. And I'm not going to say it perfectly, so bear with me. But it's find successful people you admire and copy the traits that you can authentically produce in your own life. And it's not as nice as whoever told me the first time, one of my past mentors as well. But I found that has been held true for me. And it's something that even if you find somebody successful in something completely different than what you see or what you want to do, if you take a trait from them that you could see could be really useful in what you want to do, then that could be really great. And it just lets you realize your own definition of success, and it's not all just one size fits all.
if it's higher education you want to get into, you're already in it. You're already in the academy. One of the easiest jobs to transition into upon graduating is admissions. They're like UPS. They're always hiring at area colleges. And you know, the bigger the college, the more likely it is you get the opportunity to travel on somebody else's dime, and you can continue your education at cost to the college. If you want to stay on the educational path, moving into getting your graduate degree, and you don't have massive responsibilities to others, graduate assistantship. A lot of individuals in our community have no idea what that is. Pretty much, it's you work on a college campus, and they give you free tuition. Basically, you pay the fees that you have to pay, but you work up to 20 hours. You have to apply for them, but graduate assistantships. Look, the bigger schools have more graduate assistantships than the smaller schools, but those are two ways to stay in the academy and to get your schooling, your next level schooling, paid for free.
For civil engineering, I would just say, if you want to be a civil engineer, focus on school, just get through the math and the physics. That's probably you'll never use it again after you get through it. I'd say just try to keep your grades up to the best that you can. Seek out an internship, right? If you can't secure a paid one, then look for an opportunity to volunteer. You can also volunteer in like an elected official's office, and they deal a lot with working with different like public works and water agencies and civil engineering profession. But I also would say that on top of like honing in on your technical skills, that you should really practice on the soft skills, right? So like find opportunities to practice public speaking, find opportunities to practice your listening skills, and then find opportunities to put yourself in environments that you're not comfortable with, because essentially that's going to help you in the long term and in your profession, especially in like civil engineering.
I would say for my industry, be consistent, be accountable, and work hard. I think those are the three things that will separate you in this industry. You know, a lot of people think it's about talent, but it's really not. You know, somebody is going to give you an opportunity, and if you're consistent, if you work hard, you're accountable, they're going to give you another opportunity and another opportunity and another opportunity. That's how this works. And so eventually whatever you want to do, you will get there if you do those three things. You know, for me, I'm not the most talented filmmaker, but those were the three things that I said, no matter what, I'm going to do these three things, and I'm going to hope for the best. And it's been working out. And I think those are, and those things can, you know, in anything you do, you have to be consistent, you have to be accountable, you have to work hard. But especially in this industry, you know, if you do those three things, you will be okay and you will find your path. And then the last thing is what I've said this whole time is be authentic and trust your point of view and trust that your point of view matters. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you for those answers. Thank you for that advice. I ain't gonna call them answers. That's advice that everybody needs to hear. I do want to open the floor just a little bit for questions. If anybody has one in the chat or in this room. And if not, I'm not going to pressure anybody into this. But I do want to say thank you in advance before somebody does ask a question. Thank you in advance for giving us knowledge that we didn't even know, or we probably just forgot about. I hope it was enriching for you as it was for us, because this is definitely needed. Any questions? Am I in chat? Nope. Oh, yes, sir.
I just wanna, if you can hear me, I see Sean smiling, hopefully he's smiling. I just wanna thank the panelists for being so flexible and willing to join us and speak to our students and speak on all things, so. Just really greatly appreciate all of you guys and for doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you all.
Oh, and one last thing, I want to say condolences to Sean for the Eagles. Just, you know. He's Philadelphia all the way, so.
I apologize. I should have muted that right then and there.
Hey, I was just about to give Dave a shout out, man, but you know, but that's what homies do for you, right? You have homies like Dave, you don't need enemies. Hey, but thanks for the invite, Dave. Thank you, Armani, our moderator, and thank you to the LACC students for listening.